Well, welcome to week 8. We're just at the end phase now of our process here in terms of leadership theory and practice. I wanted to begin by thanking you for the wonderful gratitude papers. I know that many of you reflected in your paper that this exercise and process is much more challenging and difficult than it would appear at first glance, and that while many of us do say thank you on a regular basis, to really express deep gratitude, to talk with somebody about the impact they made on our development and growth, and then to have that experience of them reflecting back to us the impact that we have made on them. I think it pulls together the ideas that gratitude is not only for the person you're expressing it to, but also for you as a leader, and how it fills us up as leaders the more we express gratitude in a very detailed, specific, and meaningful way. So I encourage each of you who you've identified the next person that you're going to give a gratitude letter for, to put that possibly in your development plan as one of the action items that might be in column 2 to continue to build your leadership optimism and continue to build on the work that we've done in our class so far. So I just wanted to recap. As you know, back on week 1, I assigned the Seligman and Peterson 2005 Interventions in Optimism, and I reposted the article, I believe, on both weeks 2 and 3 on our Blackboard. So I wanted you to reflect on, there were 3 interventions in optimism that were identified as making a significant long-term impact on optimism for leaders and optimism for followers in what we do. The first, of course, was the expression of gratitude and writing the gratitude letter. The second was the reflection on 3 good things and the importance of literally the night as we're going to sleep, rewiring what we're thinking about as we're falling asleep by focusing on the good things that happened that day and the specific impact they made on us, so that we're falling asleep thinking more about optimistic, positive outcomes that happened, rather than what most of us will tend to do, which is to focus on the problems, the challenges, the issues, and then often it disrupting our sleep because we're focused on what we need to do the next day in order to address those problems, or maybe even just perseverating on the problems, and as a result, not sleeping as well, and as a result, on the next day, being less effective in what we're doing and how we're doing it. The third intervention is, of course, finding a new way to use your strengths. And so that will be the focus of your final individual development plan and will be directly related, of course, to the final paper that you'll be writing. So the final paper is worth 70 points, the final development plan worth 30 points, but those will both be submitted together. And so what I want to do in this time that we spend together is to overview the 3 good things paper that you'll be analyzing your 3 good things. Hopefully you'll have data from at least 30 days, which should give you 90 observations if you are writing 3 good things every night. You may have more, you may have less, and that is absolutely fine in the process. But this week we'll focus on the analysis of the data that you've gathered over the last 4 to 6 weeks, however long you've been keeping your nightly journal. I do want to just say before we go on is optimism, again, is not just a Pollyanna, everything's going to be great, no worries type of an attitude. The focus on optimism, particularly as it's related to leadership, is that leaders are about creating change. And in order to be optimistic about the change, you have to have a clear perspective on the vision of what could be, as well as the obstacles, the challenges, the issues that we need to encounter in order to create that change. So optimism then is the focus on what actions I can take as an individual in whatever domain of leadership that I'm in right now. And again, you don't have to be in a formal position of leadership in order to lead a targeted result, outcome, project, or new process set of changes. So that is the focus that we have in terms of leadership for our class, as well as in understanding the work and research on what makes for high-performing leaders. So let's go to the 3 good things paper that you'll be writing this week. There'll be 3 sections in the paper, so please carefully review the sample that I've posted up online, as well as, of course, the rubric of the 3 subheadings I'd like you to use in the paper. And again, for this paper, APA format is not required. The only paper in our class that requires APA format is our final paper that you'll be writing and submitting for week 10. So what you'll do is, as an example, if you have been writing for the last 30 days, 3 good things every night, you would have 90 different events that you'll have written, and you'll be now rereading your journals. And what I'd like you to do is to begin by rereading the events that you've written, and then creating what I call clusters, or different events and how they tend to seem to go together. So many of you may have had events that cluster under learning, new growth, development of wisdom, whatever you'd like to call it, that you experienced over the last 30 days through the work that you've done, either through our class or other classes you're taking, the work that you're doing at work on your assignments and your day-to-day activities. And you may have a cluster of activities that fall into the category of learning and development. You may have another cluster of activities that were related to good things that happened in your relationships with people. These could be people at home, people at work, people in your community, things that you did that you found really nurturing in the events that you wrote about at the end of the day. These could be as simple as having a coffee with one of your colleagues at work, having time to have breakfast with your significant other or family before you rushed off to the day's activities. So those sorts of relationships and what happened that felt nurturing and developing through your 3 good things that you had written. You may have other events that focus on contributing to the growth of others, maybe some coaching, some feedback that you had given that was particularly rewarding, or feedback that you received from somebody else. So those are just 3 general examples. You may not have those subheadings, but I'd like you to have 3 to 4 clusters of looking at your 3 good things and then identifying the categories that you think capture what was happening. What were the patterns that was happening as you were writing these 3 good things? Again, you're not to type up a list of what you wrote in your journal. The key is to describe those good things and the impact as you look back on them now on your optimism and describing why they were good. And again, please look at the sample papers for examples of what others have done, other students in this course have done in order to integrate these clusters. Then what you're going to do is second subheading is identify in these good things, which ones were things that I caused, which ones were things that were caused by others, and then which ones were seemingly random. So you're going to have 3 categories, and again, I'd like you to count. So if you had 30 days of 3 good things and 90 activities, you may find that in your count that you had 63 of these items were things that were initiated by me. So as an example, you might have, I asked Sue to go to lunch with me, and we had a great time talking and laughing about what was happening in her life right now. Or I took initiative in the meeting to prepare for a certain project update and then talk to my manager in advance of the meeting. So that was something, again, I did. So I initiated these things. Then look at the other side. How many events were initiated by others? Someone else did the event or it caused the event. So as an example, if you have an event where maybe your significant other or your spouse called you and said, let's go out together tonight after you get home from work. I just want to spend some time catching up. We haven't been able to see each other. So that would be an event initiated by somebody else, but that was still a good thing. So you might have 30 or 40 of events that fall into that category. And then there's events I also believe they're just random. And that could be events like I was listening to the radio, driving home, sitting in traffic, and one of my favorite songs came on the radio, and it just I started singing to it, and it just felt great. It was just a random event of what happened to come on the radio. Or an interesting news story that came up that made me laugh as they were talking about what was occurring in the particular situation I was listening to. So those are just random events, things that come up that are unplanned, and they're not, if you will, anything that you had done or someone else had done. You just happened to be listening to the radio at that time, or this event happened and you were there and it was positive from your perspective. So what I'd like you to do is to write what was caused by me, what was caused by others, and then what seemed to be random. And then the last section of your paper will be, now that I see how many events I'm causing, and in the first area, the clusters in which those events fall, what will I do now to ensure that these events continue to occur over the next 30 days? And what actions will I take? What outreach will I have to different people in order to ensure that more of these good events that contributed positively to my optimism over the last 4 to 6 weeks, that they continue to happen as I look at the next 30 days? So this is about proactive leadership, taking initiative for what you want to create, for reaching out to build relationships with the people whom you'd like to build those relationships with, for taking initiative to be more involved in projects, tasks, assignments that you find to be interesting, that you can learn more, and where you believe you really have an opportunity to contribute and to develop. In this paper, for the 3 good things, you also need to have scholarly references. These references you can use from any of the references I've posted in the folders on any of our weeks on scholarly information, or they could be from the scholarly articles that you sourced during week 7 as part of the process when you are identifying different leadership articles associated with different leadership areas. And the key is to summarize and link those to your strengths and to optimistic leadership, to proactive leadership, and even some of the concepts around authentic leadership. So for an example, when you're including the references, what I want to be clear on, and this is related both to the paper that's 3 good things as well as to your final paper. When you're summarizing the information, I really want you to focus on the specific concepts in the paper that take us beyond our understanding of what was in the class. So as an example, I posted a paper on week 1 that was related to why managers should focus on emotional intelligence. It was a 2009 article. And in that article, they talked about how individuals and leaders who have higher levels of emotional intelligence, what they found in the research is that these individuals were more collaborative in their interactions on teams. They actually expressed more fairness. And so when monetary rewards and other rewards were being distributed, they were more focused on fairness and equity rather than just focus on competition and how to get more of what I think I deserve, which would be more of an individualistic perspective. So including that in your summary would be much more focused on the concepts related to what is written in the paper. And what I do not want you to do is to just repeat self-awareness is important for emotional intelligence. I think we all know from the field work that we've done and the readings and the articles that you've read and the videos you've watched that we really need to have emotional self-awareness, and that is one of the key precepts. But by this point in the course, you shouldn't be including that as part of your summary when you're doing your scholarly citations in either the paper due on 3 good things or in your final paper. So please look at the implications, the results, and discussion sections of the paper and what conclusions you can draw and linking those to the concepts in this first paper you'll be writing on 3 good things.